For most of us, the thought of coming into a huge amount of money is thrilling. Imagine inheriting a rare item or winning a massive cash prize. You'd look after your windfall like your life depended on it, right? Well, not these folks. Here's my list of expensive things that people have abandoned. Be warned, you're about to be seriously frustrated. Number 10. Ancient artifacts. When a professional mover made the questionable decision to take home an old barrel that he found in a Soho apartment, he probably didn't imagine that it would contain ancient treasure worth more than $16,000. Nick DeMola's company was hired to clear the space of abstract artist Clinton Hill, who died back in 2003. During the 2004 clearance, DeMola mistook the old barrel for trash and stuck it in his warehouse where it was probably forgotten about. That is until 2009, when he finally decided to take a look inside and found a whole collection of incredibly rare ancient Mexican artifacts. The single item with the most value was a $1,000 stone axe god, which might have been used as a sacrifice by the Mayans. But they were bowls, figurines, and jugs dating back between 300 BC and 500 AD. The total valuation put on the collection was $16,500, and DeMola's company's contract luckily states that it's basically finders keepers on the loot. Number 9. Original Frankenstein movie poster. When one of the world's rarest movie posters was found during the clearance of a disused theater in Long Island, it was certain to be worth a pretty penny. But when it sold at auction for $262,900, it became one of the highest sales of its kind in history. The 1931 movie artwork was dumped in an antique store after the theater was cleared, where it was snapped up by a teenager called Keith Johnson. Keith bought it in the late 1960s for just a couple of dollars and kept it in a closet for over 30 years before having it professionally restored, ready for the sale. The 87-year-old poster is one of only a few original posters from the film that are known to exist, and is the only known copy of the sought-after 3-sheet style of poster that was created for the debut of the classic horror. Number 8. Topps cards found in Detroit building. When urban explorers, or trespassers as they're more accurately called, went on an adventure in an abandoned Detroit factory, little did they know that they'd emerge as millionaires. Millions of Topps cards were piled high in dust-covered boxes, with thousands more strewn across the floor. Although the individual cards are only worth between 99 cents and $5.99, the sheer quantity of the cards made the collection worth at least $1 million. The cards featuring hockey, baseball, and other U.S. sports dated back to the 80s and 90s, and among the bunch were some rare cards. What made them even more valuable is that many of the packages hadn't even been opened, and some feature strips of cards hadn't been cut, which meant that they were in mint condition. It's still a mystery who the treasure originally belonged to, but if there's $1 million worth of loot lying around in disused buildings, I think I'm going to take up urban exploration too. Number 7. A winning lottery ticket. It's most people's dream to win the lottery. Suddenly having enough money to buy everything you could ever want is a pretty exciting thought. So imagine you winning the jackpot, then losing the ticket. Oh my god. This happened to Kevin Donovan, whose $1 million ticket ended up in the trash, where 83-year-old Edward St. John had the good fortune of finding it. St. John often looked through the trash at his local convenience store with the specific goal of finding winning tickets, and on that day, his hard work finally paid off. Donovan claimed that he bought every single Hold'em poker ticket in the store that day, so the winnings were definitely his. He sued St. John, who only agreed to give up $140,000 of his findings because he wanted to enjoy the money before he died. Number 6. World's oldest Rolls-Royce found in a garage. A super rare Rolls-Royce sold for more than $30,000 after it was found in a garage where it had been abandoned for 90 years. And it's thought that the rare vehicle could be worth up to 6 times more than that after it's been properly restored. Built in 1922, the Goshawk prototype was thought to have been scrapped when it suddenly vanished in the 1940s. But then in 2014 it resurfaced in a dusty barn in Wales in the UK. The classic car is said to be the oldest of its kind in existence. It was one of 7 experimental models built by Rolls-Royce in 1922, as they attempted to develop a smaller car to better suit post-World War I austerity. It's said that the original owner didn't realize what he had in his possession until after he sold it. I bet he's kicking himself now. Number 5. Cash found in a storage unit. Anyone that's ever seen a storage unit reality show knows that there's some incredible treasure to be found. And one woman knows this better than anyone after she found $7.5 million in cash. Yeah, really. Dan Dodson from A&E Storage Wars was attending a charity auction when he met a woman whose friend had bought a unit from him. When the guy opened up the unit, he found a safe inside containing the huge wedge of money. The man's identity has been kept under wraps, but it was revealed that the original owners of the unit contacted him to offer $600,000 in exchange for returning the rest of the money. He obviously declined, but apparently eventually agreed to keep $1.2 million after the original owner's attorney threatened to come after the rest of the money if he didn't accept. The unit originally sold for $564.17. That has to be one of the best investments of all time. And this isn't the only storage unit windfall. Another man found $500,000 worth of silver and gold in the storage unit after paying just $1,100 for it. Number 4. Original Declaration of Independence. Now, this is bonkers. When a collector visited a Pennsylvania flea market in the late 80s, he spent $4 on what he called a dismal painting because he liked the frame. Well, unbelievably, hidden behind that dismal painting was a first edition printing of the Declaration of Independence. It was sold for an astounding $2.42 million at auction, which was a record for any historical Americana. The story first appeared in the New York Times in 1991 after Sotheby's auction house announced the incredible find. The Declaration, which dates back to 1776, was perfectly preserved and is one of only 24 copies known to have survived. Number 3. Rare Motorcycle. As I've already proven, barns are a great place to look for treasure, and this rare bike became another prime example when it sold for a whopping $477,205. The 1932 Brow Superior 800cc BS4 project bike was one of 8 found tucked away in a barn after a collector died and his possessions were put up for sale by his beneficiaries. The BS4 became the most expensive British motorcycle ever sold at auction and the most expensive brow bike of all time. The record-breaking BS4 is one of 7 known to still exist, and it attracted an incredibly high price despite its need for extensive restoration. And what makes this sale even more astounding is that ahead of the sale, Bonham's auction house predicted a selling price as low as $110,000, when in fact it made 4 times as much. It wasn't the only bike from the barn to sell for a huge price. Other items from what was dubbed the Bras of Bodmin Moor attracted up to $250,000 each. Number 2. Expensive painting. This story is stranger than fiction, but it's absolutely true and ends in the discovery of a painting worth $2.5 million. In 2010, a French woman died, leaving behind her Parisian apartment. The woman's family sent in auctioneers to inventory the apartment, and when they opened the front door, they found that it had been virtually untouched since the Second World War. The owner, Madame de Florian, had fled Paris in 1942 as the German offensive closed in. She was just 23 at the time, and for the next 70 years she continued to pay rent on the apartment without ever returning. Among countless other treasures from Paris's Belle Epoque era was a painting by renowned 19th century artist Giovanni Boldini. The woman in the painting was Madame de Florian's grandmother, Martha, the apartment's original owner and Boldini's muse. The never-before-seen 1898 painting was put up for auction with an asking price of $288,000, but it sold for an astonishing $2.4 million. This isn't the only instance of valuable art being discovered in unexpected places. A woman found a stolen piece of modern art worth $1 million in the trash on a New York City street, and a sculpture worth around $1.7 million was found being used to prop open a shed door in Scotland. Madness. Number 1. Abandoned supercars. This one will really make you pull your hair out because this isn't just one instance of pricey things being dumped. It's a full-blown epidemic. Dubai residents have a habit of dumping supercars. I'm talking Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Bentleys, and pretty much any other luxury car manufacturer you can think of, left to rot by the thousands every year. Makes you sick, doesn't it? But despite how it might look, this isn't just wealthy, spoiled people getting bored of their toys and throwing them out. The truth is much less pleasant for the car owners. See, the reason so many people are abandoning their supercars is because of the effects of the global financial crisis and plunging oil prices that have been plaguing the Middle East's most wealthy inhabitants for the past couple of years. Many of the cars belong to expats that flocked to the UAE during its financial boom, only to fall on hard times a few years later. Facing bankruptcy, these expats are fleeing Dubai in huge numbers because non-payments on debts you owe is a criminal offense under Sharia law, which is observed across the vast majority of the Middle East and the UAE. These luxury cars they leave behind represent their old lives as high rollers. This 1 million limited edition Ferrari Enzo, for example, is said to belong to a British expat who was forced to abandon not only his car, but his entire life after defaulting on the car's payments and fleeing the city to avoid prison. And it's not just Dubai that has a nasty habit of ditching cars. This one-of-a-kind Rolls-Royce Centurion was found abandoned by a wealthy American alongside Russian train tracks. And this Lamborghini Mira S was left in a hotel parking garage in Athens for almost 30 years by Stamatis Kokatis, also known as Greek Elvis. Together, these two cars are worth over $800,000. I'm going to leave you to mull over that number for a while. So I hope you haven't pulled all your hair out in frustration at these abandoned items. Which one frustrated you the most? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching.